I don't remember the first time I died, only the way the world sounded when I came back. Not like breath, not like heartbeat, more like pressure, pushing me upward inside my own skin, the mountains squeezing me back into shape, and the way roots force their way through old grave planks. I never wake soft, never gentle. My body drags itself toward awareness, like it's crawling up from deep mud, every sense thick and slow and hateful. The Smokies were quiet when I opened my eyes. They're never truly quiet, always some wind through the hemlocks, some creek mumbling to itself, some crow taking offense at nothing. But the forest around me felt held, waiting, like it knew I was back. I lay there for a long moment, staring up at the strip of gray sky between the branches. My right eye was gummy, sealed with blood. The left opened fine. Regeneration rarely treats me evenly. Last time I died, something exploded near my head. Don't remember what, don't remember why. But the flash cooked one side of my face enough that when it mended, it knitted wrong. The scar tissue had pulled the skin tight across my cheekbone, tugged my mouth sideways, left me with a permanent half-snarl I didn't ask for. But that's the way of things. I don't get to choose how I come back. I only get to live with it. I pushed myself upright, bones groaning like wet timbers shifting back into place. My spine made 3 heavy pops, each loud enough to echo faintly through the trees. Regeneration fixes me, but it doesn't fix me clean. Every healing carries the memory of the wound. My ribs have grown and crooked over so many deaths, they sit like a basket someone sat on wrong. My left leg is a full inch shorter than it used to be. My right forearm healed thicker than my left, bones calcified into strange ridges under the skin. I've looked in still water before. I know what I am. I know what the mountain has made of me. But I've long accepted that beauty was never going to be my burden. I rolled my shoulders, testing the joints, feeling the stiffness seep outward until motion burned through the last of the sluggishness. My clothes, if you could call them that, hung in tatters. A shirt I'd found in an abandoned cabin years ago, now more whole than fabric. Jeans held together by patches of old thread and stubbornness. Boots I'd resoled with scrap hide and wire. I stood fully, breath fogging in the cool morning air. And that's when I smelled them. 3 of them. Young by scent at least. Sweat with that sour tang of people who don't know the woods well enough to respect them. Cheap soap, sunscreen, the cold mineral smell of store-bought water, nylon tent fabric, the faint, sweet whiff of packaged food, granola, protein bars, maybe some jerky. 3 hikers, 3 campers, 3 intruders. They were a ridge and a half away, uphill, carried on a wind sliding down the branches in slow, chilled waves. The fog made everything damp, muting the usual pine and earth and decay, so their smell cut through clean. New, fresh, out of place. My territory. I flexed my fingers slowly. The knuckles cracked like old walnuts. For a moment, a long, thin moment, I wondered if I'd go to them now or wait until dusk. I like dusk. Shadows make people nervous. People who are nervous make mistakes. And I like watching mistakes bloom fear on their faces. But the truth is simpler. I like killing them. And I've never made a secret of it, not to myself. There's no righteousness in what I do. No justification or excuse. I hunt because I want to. Because it feels right. Because the mountain hums inside my bones when I spill blood on its soil. But there's ritual to it too. There always has been. I leaned down, picked up the little pouch I keep tied with sinew, my trophies, bits and pieces from those who crossed my path. A bead, a tooth, a fingernail, lacquered once, but now yellow and brittle. A piece of knotted hair. Things that meant something to someone once. I tied the pouch to my belt. The forest shifted around me. Waking always leaves me hollow and starving in ways food can't fix. The kind of hunger that lives behind the ribs, in the marrow. A human would call it bloodlust. A doctor would call it psychopathy. A preacher would call it sin. I call it what it is, the need. Not magic, not curse, just the truth of me. I started walking. My gait isn't pretty. One leg drags heavier than the other, and there's a slight twist in my spine that makes my shoulders sit uneven. But I move well in the woods, better than before I was broken. The deformities, ugly as they are, forced me to relearn balance in the places men don't go. On rock shelves slick with moss, across fallen logs sharpened to splinters, through brambles where the only way through is on all fours like an animal. I know every inch of this mountain, and it knows me. As I climbed, the smell of them grew stronger, sweat warming in the rising day, synthetic fibers carrying the heat of their bodies. The faint but distinct scent of fear, not yet full, just a simmer, maybe from getting lost, or hearing something in the woods they didn't like. Good. Awareness makes them sweet. By the time I reached the first ridge, I could hear them. Not words, just shapes of sound. Footsteps on pine needles, a zipper, a laugh, nervous and short. The clatter of metal against metal, probably trekking poles or cookware. I crouched low, letting the rhododendron hide me. Fog was settling deeper now, thick and white, curling through the hemlocks like breath from a sleeping giant. It took the color out of everything, turned the world into a pale, silent dream. Perfect hunting weather. I closed my eyes, breathed in deeply, and let the mountains speak through the scents and sounds. Let it draw a map in my head of where they were going, what they thought they were safe from. 3 campers, 1 path, a narrow valley cut by a cold creek. I could see it without seeing it. I've killed in that valley before. One of them, lighter steps, uneven rhythm, moved a little ahead of the others. Probably the talker, the one who thinks he's leading, the one who'll die first. People like that always do. The other 2 lingered close together. Breathing paced. Boot falls matching. Could be a couple. Could be siblings. Doesn't matter. All I know is this. They are in my woods, and no one walks out of my woods alive. I rose, slowly, silently. My joints clicked. My muscles stretched. The fog parted just enough that I could see a faint glow through the trees. Bright colors, jackets, tents, backpacks, people who believe their gear will protect them. I took my first step toward them. Not fast, not eager, just certain. Because once I wake, once I smell them, once the hunger curls its fingers inside my chest, there's no stopping. Not for mercy, not for pity, not for anything in this world or the next. My name is Ephra. And today, 3 people are going to die in the shadow of this mountain. The fog thickened as I approached the ridge, turning every shape into a smudge and every tree into a ghost. The Smokies breathe in weather like nothing else on earth. Mist here doesn't settle. It prowls. It curls through the branches in low sweeps, coats the ground in slick dew, clings to skin like cold fingers. And it hides me. The campers didn't know that. Most people don't. They think a fog makes them invisible. But fog makes sound sharper, closer. It makes scent bloom wide and bright. It gives me everything I need. I crept along a slope where the ground dipped sharply down toward their valley. Needles cushioned my steps, and the wet earth held them quiet. The forest here is steep in a way newcomers never expect. Your foot goes one direction, your weight goes another, and suddenly you're tumbling. But I've lived half my life on these angles. When I move, the mountain moves with me. I could finally see them. 3 shapes. Blurry through the fog, but clear in movement. The leader walked ahead, taller than the others, shoulders stiff like he'd convinced himself he wasn't scared. Every few steps he turned back to the others, talking, pointing, exaggerating his confidence. He was the kind who filled silence because he didn't know how to sit with fear. Behind him came the other 2, a man and a woman. Though from the distance they looked interchangeable under their bright ponchos. Their footsteps stayed close together, paced like they wanted to hide behind each other. I crouched behind a boulder, letting the moss dampen the sound of my breathing. My chest still hurt from the resurrection. Regeneration closes the wounds, but it doesn't heal the ache. Pain makes me feel alive. Pain makes me hungry. My jaw clicked as I chewed at the inside of my cheek, tasting old blood lingering from whatever killed me last time. The memory would resurface later. It always does. Death doesn't take memories from me. It buries them until they rot back to the surface. The hikers stopped. The woman adjusted her pack. The second man bent to tie his boot. The leader stood with his hands on his hips, scanning the woods like he expected a view to magically appear through the fog. I listened. I breathed. I waited. The ritual of the hunt always starts this way. Patience, quiet, observation. If I am to collect from them, I need to know their shapes, their patterns, their use. Collectors don't grab blindly. Collectors choose. The leader talked again, voice muffled by the fog. He didn't look at his surroundings, only at his companions. That told me everything. He was the noise. He was the distraction. He'd be the first. They resumed walking, heading toward the narrow valley between 2 rising shoulders of rock. Perfect terrain. The path there dips sharply, then squeezes tight between rhododendron walls. Only one route through. My route. I slipped down the slope ahead of them, moving around the ridge until I stood right above where the trail narrowed. I crouched low, letting the undergrowth swallow me whole. The cold creek below whispered over stones, masking the faint crack of my knee as I settled. Minutes passed. Fog thickened. Birds held silent. Then, footsteps. Close, crunching pine needles, breathing heavy from climbing. The leader appeared first, still talking over his shoulder. I could see him clearer now, mid-20s maybe. A patchy beard he was probably proud of. Expensive hiking jacket he thought made him rugged. His pack was too loose. It swung with every step. Amateur. The other 2 followed, quieter, eyes down, not paying attention to the woods. That was fine. I was paying attention for them. I rose half an inch, slow as rot. My breath fogged the air, merging with the mist. The smell of them hit me harder now. Warm skin, synthetic fabrics, the faint salt of nervous sweat. My ribs tingled. My hands tightened. And then the leader stopped. He squinted forward, head tilted. Something had bothered him. Maybe the way the fog shifted, or the sudden dead air, or the creek quieting as they approached. Animals sense me. People sometimes do too, but never clearly. He stepped forward anyway. Wrong move. He walked straight into the narrow gap between the rhododendron thickets. Perfect. Only enough room for one. I slipped behind him like a shadow following a shadow. His companions were a few steps back, distracted by something, arguing softly. They wouldn't see him go. Wouldn't hear him either once I got my hand over his mouth. I moved faster, my left foot planted silently. My right foot shifted around a rock. My hand rose, fingers spread wide. He turned. Not fully. Just enough. The fog thinned for one split second and his eyes met mine. He didn't scream, didn't react, didn't understand. Recognition takes time. He didn't have any. I lunged, my hand clamped over his mouth. His jaw popped under the pressure. My other hand grabbed his collar, yanking him backward off the trail and into the thicket. His boots scraped rock. The bushes swallowed us. He tried to shout. I crushed his lips against his teeth. Hot copper flooded my palm. The woman called his name. The second man mumbled something. They didn't move closer yet. Good. I hauled him deeper into the greenery, letting branches whip shut behind us. His arms flailed at me, weak. He was stronger than he realized, but nowhere near enough. Humans fight like they want to survive. I fight like I already know the ending. A root caught his foot and he fell backward, dragging me with him. We hit the ground in a tangle, his breath held in my palm like a trapped animal. His eyes shifted from terror to comprehension. He finally saw me. Not the fog-blurred shape, not the outline in the trees. Me. And fear arrived, sharp and sudden. I love that moment. I removed my hand just long enough to let him gasp. He tried to scream. I slammed his head against the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th, the sound changed. Something in his skull gave soft, wet, wrong. His eyes rolled upward. His body twitched. He was not dead. Not yet. I positioned myself over him, pinning him with my knee while my hands found his throat. His blood slicked my fingers. His breath rattled. You shouldn't be here, I whispered, my voice broken from the regeneration. This is my mountain. His mouth worked silently, spit and blood bubbling at the corner. I squeezed. His windpipe crushed like damp bark under my palms. His legs kicked weakly, then stilled. The last of the light left his eyes, and the forest, my forest, seemed to take him from me, absorbing the moment like a satisfied breath. But the ritual wasn't done. I reached into my pouch, pushing aside old trophies until I found the small, rusted carving knife I kept buried at the bottom. Not sharp enough to cut clean, just sharp enough to take what I needed. Collectors don't collect in haste. Collectors savor. I pried his jaw open with one hand. His teeth were straight, too straight. Veneers, maybe. I didn't like the perfection. It offended me. But ritual is ritual. I chose one tooth halfway back, a molar. Good size, good shape, useful. The knife pressed into his gum. Blood welled. Flesh resisted. Then, crack. The tooth came free, warm in my fingers. I dropped it into the pouch. 1 down, 2 to go. The sound of footsteps snapped my head up. The other 2 were approaching, slowly, cautiously, whispering. I could hear their fear now, trickling through each breath. Their friend had vanished. The woods felt wrong. Instinct was speaking to them louder now. I wiped my hand on the dead man's jacket and rose. My leg spasmed. Old injury, healed crooked. I ignored it. I crouched low and watched the trail through the rhododendron leaves. The woman appeared first, her face pale, eyes wide. She peered into the fog, calling the leader's name once, twice, voice cracking. The second man stood behind her, clutching his pack straps with tense fingers. I could kill them both right here. Rush out, drag them down, end it fast. But then I wouldn't get what I needed. The ritual demands patience. The collector's path is slow, precise. Besides, they weren't scared enough yet. Fear adds flavor. I let them wait, let them search. Let them wander just close enough to feel me, but not see me. The woman stepped toward the thicket. My heart thudded once, heavy as a hammer. She was curious. Brave, maybe. Brave dies messier. But then the man yanked her back. He wanted to leave. His instincts were good. Too good. He kept looking over his shoulder, sensing shapes that weren't there, or shapes that were. They turned around, whispering urgently, retreating the way they came. Smart move, but not smart enough. I waited until they were 36 steps up the path. Then I began to follow. Not silently. I let one branch snap under my foot. Let one stone roll with a soft grinding sound. Let the wind shift their way. The man froze. The woman grabbed his arm. They listened. I held still, crouched low, heartbeat steady. They whispered. Moved faster, almost a jog. Good. Running makes the blood hotter. The trail ahead curved around a huge fallen pine that had toppled decades ago. The trunk sat like a natural wall across the landscape, roots curled upward like grasping hands. Only one narrow gap existed between trunk and rock. I knew that spot well. I'd killed there before. I slipped through a downhill shortcut, sliding silently between two boulders and dropping into the shallow ravine below the pine. My fingers scraped the rough stone, leaving faint smears of the leader's blood. By the time I climbed up behind the fallen trunk and crouched low, the remaining two were approaching fast, breath ragged. The woman passed first, squeezing through the narrow gap between trunk and rock. Then the man followed. And once he was halfway through, I moved. My hand shot over the trunk, grabbed a fistful of his hair, and slammed his head sideways into the bark. He cried out, short, choked. The woman screamed and ran, terror exploding in her voice. I yanked the man backward and threw him hard onto the ground behind the trunk. He landed on the slope, tumbling, scraping skin off his arms and cheek. He looked up at me. He saw everything. My twisted posture, my ruined jaw, my two long arms, and the regenerated scar tissue ridges crawling like roots under my skin. He saw the blood on my hands. He saw the grin that wasn't a grin, just my deformed mouth stretching wrong. And he understood. He didn't die of misunderstanding. He died knowing exactly what had found him. He tried to crawl away. I let him. Half a second only. Then I leapt down the slope, catching him by the ankle. My knee cracked on a rock. Pain shot through bone and muscle. Good. Pain sharpened me. I dragged him back, his nails clawing into the soil. He turned over and grabbed a rock, swinging wildly. It hit my shoulder, snapping a chunk of bone loose. I felt it, heard it. Regeneration would fix it later. I slammed my forehead into his nose. Cartilage burst. Blood sprayed my chin. He gurgled on it. Then I grabbed the rock from his hand and brought it down hard onto his skull. Once, twice, a third, a fourth. By the fifth strike, The rock didn't sound like rock hitting bone anymore. It sounded like pounding wet leaves. When he stopped twitching, I picked through the mess of his broken face until I found something worth taking. A piece of jawbone with 2 teeth still intact. I pried it free, wiped it on his shirt, and slipped it into my pouch. 2 trophies. 1 left. I stood, shoulders heaving, and looked up the trail. The woman had run. Smartest thing she could have done. But she wasn't out of the woods. No one ever is, especially not when the mountain wants blood. Especially not when I feel the hunger humming through my bones like a second heartbeat. I turned toward the direction she'd fled. And I smiled. That crooked, wrong smile my healing had given me. The hunt wasn't over. It was about to get much, much worse. I drag their blood behind me as I walk. The scent already sinking sweet into the dirt, and I feel the mountains stir beneath my heels. The Smokies know my work is nearly done. They murmur their approval through the leaves, and the wind moves like breath against my face, warm as a mother's hand. 3 campers, 3 intruders, 3 offerings, 1 left. My steps slow as I approach the last tendril of light from their dying fire. Only 1 body remains unclaimed by my hands. The runner, the last one who thought to flee like a rabbit bolting from the jaws of a fox. Her trail is fresh, not 20 minutes old, all panic and clumsy footprints cutting into the soft mud. She went uphill instead of down to the road. Good. They always do. Fear makes them stupid. She thinks altitude will save her. It never does. The ridge above looms like a jagged black tooth against the sky. Clouds roll low and heavy, thickening into something like boiling tar. The night deepens with each step, as though the darkness itself leans in to watch. I breathe the mountain in, slow and steady. Its heartbeat is faint but present, a thrum deep in the stone, like a bass note struck from below the world. It speaks to me through grain and gravel, feeding me the runner's location. I feel her panicked pulse thrumming through the ground. She's not far now, and still I savor the walk. This is the part I love. The part where they know I'm behind them, where hope thins, where the night becomes a throat tightening around their screams. She's sitting somewhere up ahead. I can taste it. Fear, sweat, bitter, sharp. She's crouched and shaking, probably with a stick clutched between white-knuckled fingers, as though a stick ever mattered. But something else is stirring tonight. Something bigger. The ritual requires 3 offerings, yes, but the 3rd is always the most important. A collector must give the mountain what it is owed. The land is old and hungry, and I am its teeth. The trees change as I climb. Older now, wider trunks, roots like gnarled fingers reaching over stone. The air thins, the cold sharpens. Somewhere far below, thunder rumbles, low, distant, but growing. The mountain is calling. It wants this done. I crest the ridge and feel her before I see her. A quivering scrape of breath on the wind. She's tucked behind a half-rotten log, trying her best to become invisible. Her heart beats so loud it's nearly comical, like a rabbit thumping in a cage. Poor thing. She's whispering to herself, over and over in a cracked voice.
Somebody's gotta be coming. Just stay awake. Please. Somebody's coming.
No one is coming, not in time. I step into the clearing with no attempt at silence. Let her hear me. Let her feel the weight of inevitability bearing down like the whole mountain atop her shoulders. She peeks over the log and sees me. sees my outline in the dim moonlight. Her eyes widen, pupils blown wide. She scrambles back, heels digging trenches in the dirt. She manages one whisper.
What? What are you?
I smile at her. A warped, stretched thing, lips cracking as they pull too tight across the scarred remnants of my face. Pain blossoms in my cheek where the flesh splits open again, but the blood knits even as it flows. Immortality. A gift and a curse. A constant grinding cycle of destruction and rebirth. I am Ephra, I tell her. My voice a rough whisper, dredged up from the throat of the mountain itself. She doesn't recognize the name, but something primal within her does. Her breath freezes, her body locks, her instincts scream, run, run, run. She doesn't get far. I reach her in 3 long strides, catching her by her backpack strap. The nylon tears in my hand like wet tissue. She pitches forward, rolling down the slope until her skull bounces against a stone. Not enough to kill, not yet, but enough to daze. I take my time descending the hill after her. The wind swirls, dragging leaves in frantic circles. Thunder rolls again, louder now. The mountain wants blood. I find her crawling through the underbrush, fingers digging into earth, legs kicking uselessly behind her.
No, no, no. Please, please. I swear.
Her voice breaks. She sobs, begging like a child. I tilt my head. This place is not yours to swear on. She whimpers, shuddering. Her breath comes in little squeals. The scent is intoxicating. Fear ripened, ready. When I take her ankle, the scream she releases is long and ragged enough to split the air. She kicks at me, a pathetic flutter of a foot against my shin, and I feel bone crack beneath her own force. She breaks before I even hurt her. Disappointing. I drag her across the ground until we reach a narrow hollow between 2 boulders, a natural stone bowl carved by ancient water. Moss clings to the sides like rotting fur. The earth here is damp, soft, welcoming. This is where it must end. The ritual demands the 3rd body be given to the stone. She tries to twist away, but I kneel and place one hand on the back of her neck, pinning her like a deer carcass. She sobs into the dirt, wet and panicked.
Please.
She rasps.
Please, I won't ever come back. I swear, just let me.
I press harder, feeling her spine tremble beneath my palm. You trespassed, I whisper. You broke the peace. You took from the land without asking. She shakes violently.
It was just camping. We didn't even.
I lean close, lips near her ear. You breathed air that was not yours. Her body locks with terror. She tries to push herself up, but I grab a handful of her hair and smash her face into the dirt. Her cry muffles into wet earth. She kicks wildly, but I straddle her back, holding her down with ease. My hands settle on her shoulders. A predator's grip. The mountain listens. The wind stills. The forest holds its breath. And I pull. Her shoulders dislocate with a fleshy crack. She howls, a scream that feels like a physical vibration through my ribs. Her arms wrench upward as cartilage pops and tendons tear. Blood spatters warm on my hands. I twist. Bone grinds, ligaments snap. Her scream rises into something shrill and hollow. The sound of a person watching her body come apart like butchered game. But she does not die. Not yet. I flip her over, her arms useless at her sides, hands dangling limp as snapped twigs. Her face is streaked with mud and blood and tears. Her eyes plead up at me, all hope extinguished.
I'm sorry,
she whispers.
I'm so sorry.
I look down at her, this fragile, insignificant thing, and see what I always see. Trespasser, offering, meat. Her apology is worthless, but her terror, that is delicious. I wrap one hand around her throat and lift her easily off the ground. Her legs kick in midair, flailing like a hooked fish. Thunder cracks overhead, the loudest yet, rattling the ground. The mountain approves. I squeeze. Her face turns purple, then nearly black, eyes bulging like grapes. Her mouth gapes open and closed in silent pleas. A final gurgle escapes her throat. And then, a last snap. Her body hangs limp in my grasp. The third offering. I lay her gently in the hollow, arranging her on the moss like a ceremonial piece. Her limbs splay at unnatural angles. Her eyes remain open, staring at the sky as though hoping to see something divine. But all that looks back is me. I close her eyelids with 2 fingers. And the mountain breathes. The ground shifts, a vibration rolling beneath my boots. The stone around the hollow hums, alive, ancient. The air thickens, warm and pulsing, like the inside of a living creature. I feel it enter me. Power. Strength. A renewal older than memory itself. My wounds knit faster. My misshapen flesh tightens. My bones realign, cracking and snapping into some newer, stronger shape. I groan, a sound half pleasure, half agony, as the regeneration tears through me, remaking me cell by cell. My fingers clench into the dirt. My jaw stretches. My spine arches until it nearly breaks, only to heal instantly, harder, sharper. The ritual is complete. Tonight, the mountain has fed well, and so have I. The forest exhales, relieved, as though a pressure has eased. The wind returns, brushing through the trees with a satisfied hiss. I stand, stronger, sharper, hungrier, always hungry. Far below, the world continues. Roads full of cars, strangers with maps visiting untouched wilderness, hikers searching for themselves in lands they do not understand. They will come again. They always do. And I will be waiting. I turn toward the darkness, the regenerating bones in my legs cracking like living branches. My shadow stretches across the ridge as I descend into the Smokies once more. I am Ephra, guardian, collector, predator, and my mountain is eternal.